Good evening, everyone. It's Weather United here, and in today's video, we are keeping an eye on a really crazy weather pattern that's about to begin across the Pacific Northwest with warmer summer and fall-like temperatures across the eastern half of the US. Now, before I do get started, if you're new to the channel and you like the detailed weather content, please consider subscribing, hitting that like button, and sharing this video with your family and friends on social media. So this is a look at the GFS model for Thursday morning, October 27th, 2022, at our precipitation forecast in the form of snow or rainfall. And also, we're looking at the rest of the atmosphere, so a couple of layers built into one. So looking forward into Thursday afternoon, pretty much quiet weather. There's not a lot of interesting, wild stuff going on other than a little bit of snow here in portions of the Rockies. A little bit of rainfall in the form of maybe some thunderstorms in portions there of the northwestern region of Iowa, as well as western Minnesota. But a lot of the activity is going to begin. Look at this. Going forward into Friday, into Saturday, you can see for portions of Louisiana, as well as Arkansas, portions of Oklahoma, nice good looking storm there could bring some moderate to heavy rainfall, some showers and thunderstorms, but the rest of the nation looking pretty good out there. And then by, say, Sunday morning, looking good other than maybe some wild weather going on up across the extreme northwest of the United States, such as Washington. And again, this continuation of this storm rolling on through. So nothing too substantial anytime soon, at least, but by early next week, that's when the pattern really begins to change. We can see a storm system in the Pacific Northwest that's going to drop down into, say, northwestern California, and that's going to really set things off by, say, Wednesday, November the 2nd. And speaking of that, I kind of should have not done this, but let's take a look at your Halloween forecast. So we can see just a couple of showers out there for the Great Lakes, for the eastern U.S., nothing too extreme. And then going into trick-or-treating, some showers, some inclement weather there for southern Texas, as well as portions there of the Northeast. A little bit of inclement weather with some light snow and some light showers there over Salem, Oregon, over Washington and Oregon, as well as, again, northern Iowa, portions of Montana. But otherwise, pretty quiet for California, Nevada, the Four Corners, as well as the High Plains, the Northern Plains, and even for the Southeast. So if you're doing any trick-or-treating, looks pretty good out there. And then fast forwarding into next week, you can see there is our system that is going to be diving down into the desert Southwest, bringing much colder temperatures. Now, the GFS is not really in well agreement with the other models like the Canadian and the European models. So we really have to be careful with what we wish for here, as this could be an outlier model. But it's been pretty consistent at showing a inside slider and a cold air mass really dipping down into California, Nevada by Wednesday and Thursday next week, really bringing cold temperatures, snow for the higher elevations, and some rainfall and some wet weather over the region. So that's good news to see. We love November to start off with some showers. We haven't had really anything significant since late September. Now into November the 5th here, out to 10 days, we may have another system that might try to develop here in the high plains of the residual as this trough kind of barrels through. You can see it right here. That's going to move northeast and bring a lot of the moisture with it, with another system trying to develop in the Pacific Northwest. But of course, that is 10 days out on the GFS. So now, looking at your temperature anomaly forecast, what is the departure from normal? Are we going to see cooler temperatures, or are we going to see warmer than average temperatures? Well, it depends on where you're at. So when you look at the graph, kind of on the bottom right, or the bottom left, I should say, and kind of, you can't miss it. That's your color code of the departures of normal. So the bluer, the darker blue colors, the purple colors, the pink colors usually indicate well below average temperatures, while areas in the orange, red indicate slightly above average, while the darker reds, and in fact, you get into the gray colors and kind of that maroonish kind of opaque kind of red indicates well above average temperatures. So temperature anomalies here over the next couple of days will be near average across the western half of the U.S. with below average temperatures for the Four Corners, but a big warm-up is in store for the Great Lakes, for Canada, including for the eastern U.S. Check this out. So by Sunday, we have, again, near average, right, for the deep south, but it's by next week when the pattern could change pretty substantial. Okay, let's go into Tuesday, November the 1st. We have a huge switcheroo here. We have well above average temperatures in the northern plains of the United States, including the Great Lakes, with above average temperatures over the eastern half there. Below average will continue, and then wait until you see this. Let's go into Thursday. By November the 3rd, you can see just still above average, and then it really gets extreme. Look at this pattern. By November the 3rd, by Thursday evening, Thursday afternoon, look at those temperatures. Southern California, you can have temperatures 20 to 30 degrees below average, while not far to the northeast, like the high plains, the northern plains, you could have temperatures 20 to 30 degrees above average. So you are, I mean, temperatures are like this. The pattern's going to go boop. It's going to really get pretty stinking wild if the GFS is actually correct. By Friday, still crazy weather. Four Corners, winter-like temperatures for early November. The first week could really be extreme. And then spring, fall, maybe even summer-like temperatures perhaps over across the deep south and the Great Lakes, and that will continue. Look at this pattern. By Sunday, or by Saturday, not this weekend, but the following weekend on the 5th of November, that's the pattern that we could be talking about. Now, again, this is going to change. We can see on the 12Z run, it looked a lot different than that from the 18Z run. If we look at the 06Z run, it looked way different. So, again, we really got to be careful with what we see here, because it's going to change with time, and that's what we're here to talk about, because this is not going to be the actual official forecast. The models have a tendency of doing this. They show one scenario, then they show another, then they show it just goes back and forth. So take that with a grain of salt, but chances are increasing for well above average temperatures for the eastern half of the U.S. So now to these actual air temperature forecasts by Thursday. By Friday, again, you can see temperatures in the 60s and 70s across the high plains in the deep south, including for Florida, can get close to the mid-80s, while California, you're striving for the low 70s through the rest of this week, including the desert southwest. No 80s, at least for right now in the desert southwest. That's good. And then going into the weekend, you can see still the same thing, not much change with the pattern. As we go into Halloween, let's kind of fast forward that. You can see warmer air moves up. It vects northward. So like the Dakotas, you're going to be in the mid to upper 60s. Yeah, that's really far above average for that location. You're going to feel it. It's going to be like, what the heck? Where's winter at? We just had it literally a week or so ago. Now it's a whole different story. Temperatures close to 80 degrees in California. Southern portion there of Arizona, you have temperatures in the low 80s, including for Florida, you have some low to mid 80s in the forecast. And then the pattern just gets more wild. Look at this. Temperatures in California in the 50s. Yeah, that's the Central Valley. Barely any 70s on the board alone in California, including the Pacific Northwest. Much colder temperatures in the Rockies. But look at this. You go up into, say, the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin, you have temperatures in the 70s by Wednesday next week. Wow, that is really crazy. And yeah, you might crank the 80s out there for November 3rd. If this pans out, wow, you could be in shorts when you should be in your heavy jackets and coats because of the crazy wild pattern. It almost looks like a yin-yang, doesn't it? You can see the curvature right here. Almost looks like that. We can put a spot here. We could put a spot here. It does look like that, to be quite honest, because you got the cooler weather, much cooler. I mean, wow. Winter-like temperatures across the eastern or western half of the U.S. with the negative PNA, while, again, the eastern half is really going to struggle to even get temperatures, even at night, below 65 degrees. It's going to be really mild. And then that continues really warm. It sticks around all the way through the weekend of November 5th through the 6th. So warm Halloween coming, so will all of next week. No winter-like temperatures are in the forecast. Why is this pattern wild, you may be asking? Well, the reason why is, if we take a look at our whole overall atmospheric forecast or the 500 millibar upper level wind chart, we can see right now the pattern is mainly zonal, other than a couple of troughs and ridges here, but overall the pattern is kind of flat. But the pattern changes. It doesn't stay the same. You know that, right? So if we go and take a look at Wednesday next week, we got this trough that's going to drop down by November the 2nd with a ridge that's going to be building in and nosing over the Great Lakes into the eastern half of the U.S. What does that bring? Well, it brings in a pretty substantial pattern change. Cold air really impacting and buckled across the western half of the U.S. with a ridge back east. That's why you're gonna see such extreme temperature swings because of that. And this continues. Whoa, my goodness. By Friday and Saturday, if this pans out on the GFS, this would be your classic Willy Wonka pattern. Yeah, I said Willy Wonka because it's wonked. It's crazy. It's not like you typically want to see a pattern. We should see a zonal flow, right? That's the least extreme pattern. But instead, we have the Jetstream kind of doing this, kind of dropping down and going right up like that with a ridge. This is very strong, by the way, almost 590 decameters. That's very high. And yes, it does get up to 591. That's very, very strong ridge that is really buckled across the southeastern U.S., including Tennessee. Could see some really record-breaking temperatures, might get close to all-time records for early November. So keep that in mind, and that could continue over the Northeast with, again, trophy weather that continues thereafter. Now, let's take a look at the Climate Prediction Center. This is quite important that we really need to take a look at. So your 6 to 10 day temperature outlook for November 1st through the 5th is like so. We have below average temperature chances over California, over Nevada, over Washington, over Oregon, over Idaho, over Montana, where we are going to likely see below average temperatures. That's what the darker blue means. With likely above average, that is certain for Indiana, for Ohio, for if you are in Illinois, if you're in Wisconsin, literally all of Michigan, all of New York, all of Pennsylvania. You have an 80 to 90% chance you're going to have above average temperatures. This is not intensity, but it is probabilities of seeing above or below average. Now, for 8 to 14 day temperature outlook for October or for November the 3rd through the 9th, you have a below average chance, so leaning below to likely below average for the West, remaining because of that negative PNA that's going to remain over our area, with still above average chances for those temperatures over the eastern half of the U.S. This goes for precipitation. Same thing, above average for the West as far as your rainfall, snowfall goes. It's likely above, that's good. Below average temperatures, above average rainfall. It is perfect for the season. I'm loving it. I'm not complaining at all. So good news, literally about 70% of the nation is under a leaning above to likely above, while Indiana, including for the southeast, is leaning below average with their rainfall. So dry and warm weather is likely to commence. That continues through November the 9th with likely above average for the Pacific Northwest, with leaning above elsewhere. Of the exception there of eastern Tennessee and the southeast, you're likely to be leaning below average in terms of rainfall. So not much rainfall, very dry, and that could be bad for drought areas that already have the drought in portions of the Tennessee area, as well as few areas there in isolated areas. So make sure you do conserve water. Make sure you're not burning anything outdoors, as fires could start. We're getting a little concerned about you all that need more rain back there. You just had a storm that went through, but you can use more rain. Let's not get below average for this time of the year, okay? So I hope you guys get the rain. All right, and so do we back here across the West. that's going to do it with today's video. If you did like it, make sure you subscribe, hit that like button, and share this video with their family and friends on social media. That's going to do it with this video. Ciao.